Last Nabarus night, we came across a strange and foreboding message. Left upon the edge of our drifter camp, the severed head of an infested Lycobrodon ran through by a Kuva spear. Showing grandmother, we understand the message, and she shares with us its warning.
Fear. Such a delightful word. It teaches us to beware the dark and all the things within it that go snippety-snap, eager to rend your innards from your belly to stuff their own hungry guts. Oh, this puts me in mind of one of my favorite tales. For there is one legend, older than all the rest, one that as civility beat back the wild as centuries turned into millennia, has evolved along with us. The fear of fangs, of shadows, of teeth that flash in the dark. The story of a wolf waiting in the shadows, ready to rip out our throats. It was on one fateful Nabarus night that a hapless Grineer soldier discovered that one should not wander off into the deep woods alone. For alone you may not be. A howl split the darkness that sent a shiver down the spine. Through all the horrors of war that this Grineer had seen in all his years, there was something about the sound. It tapped into the very thing that is born as we are born, sputtering and mewling into this uncaring world. Fear. He was alone. He was being hunted. And he was afraid. Into the night the Grineer soldier ran, over stump and through darkened glade, with the sound of the beast growing closer, louder, howling, jaws slather snapping, a misplaced foot, an ill-timed step, and the ground came rushing up to meet him. Rolling onto his back, he sought to defend himself, but last, catching sight of his pursuer, primal terror had come for him. A twisted shape, bulbous, stinking, fetid, jaws drooling with ooze and ire. An infected Kubradon. Lifting his marelock, his shaking hand took aim. Bang! A single shot killed the beast dead. He laughed at his own foolishness. He, a mighty soldier, afraid of a single sad and infested Kubradon. Hubris, my dear Tenno, is responsible for more tragedy in this world than any other inclination we may have. Remember that, and someday it may save you. For notice he did not that the slain beast's family had encircled him. The creatures descended, sinking teeth into flesh, peeling sinew from bone, spreading their infested blood into him. How he screamed, fighting off the monsters as best he could. Fists pounded into fur as he fought like the beasts around him. It was all he had left. One heartbeat would be all that could spare him from the grave. In the end, he survived, torn and shredded, bleeding and bitten, but alive. He thought that his arduous saga had come to an end. Until he heard that dreadful howl once more. Though, this time, it came from him. flesh-twisting, bone-snapping, the noises that left his agonized form were bestial, wild, feral. Soon it was he who stalked the night. It was he who tasted blood upon his fangs. It was he who inspired the fear of the hunt. Oh, fret not though, dear heart, for even the hunters can be hunted. The beasts can be felled, and trophies can be made of those who were brought low. But mark me, Tenno, for perhaps this Nabarus night, when you think yourself the pinnacle of the hunt, you had best be wary of the eyes peering at you from the dark, lest you be next. Happy Nabarus!
A simple horror story, like the tales of beasts and werewolves. A simple warning of hunter becoming hunted, but with a twist. Not only the fear of death, but unlife, of the self being subsumed into the inhuman apparatus of your foe. What destroyed the Orokin Empire? An unexpected war? A Warframe rebellion commanded by devil children? No. Long before the journey to Tau, it was hubris what felled the beast, the belief that there could never be something greater than themselves. First the sentient, and then the Tenno, the Night of Naga Drums. A celebration provided the moment that the Orokin dropped their guard. But in the era ruled by Tenno, where nothing stands to oppose us, do we ever stop to wonder what still lurks in the shadows, waiting for their moment?
Tenno, it is an honor to announce that with the help of our syndicate partners, we have resurrected and restored 6 of the lost Orokin relays. Among other things, these relays will act as a market, a rallying point, and of course, a meeting place for all Tenno.
Tenno! Look at you! Insects! Insects! Buzzing in your nests! Oblivious to the giants awakening around you! This is too easy! Tell your Lotus to send more capable fighters next time!
This is the threat of Baelor Fomorian. Your mission is to get inside the beast and inflict as much damage as possible. Get in range.
As the Tenno faction rose in this new era, we restored and rebuilt a series of Orokin towers in orbit around various sectors of the system. These relays were meant to be our homes and a place to welcome and collaborate with our friends and allies. It was in this moment of celebration and success that Counselor Vahek struck at our complacency. In Operation Eyes of Blight, Vahek sent his fleet of Baelor Fomorians, massive, spacefaring vessels of brute force, took aim at every relay across the system. And though the Tenno clans fought valiantly, only a handful of the relays managed to survive their complete destruction.
You've done your part, Tenno. Now rendezvous with your Lizette. Power field regeneration imminent. Get out of there, fast.
One of those lost homes, in orbit around Venus, was Vesper Relay.
Even I didn't think it would be this easy! Are you insects even trying? Fomorian Commander, crush this nest!
Operator, please tell me you will personally destroy every last one of his Fomorians. That is the only answer.
Remember, if we need to scream, we don't do it with our mouths. We do it with our pictures.
Revered Tenno, my mentor, Arbiter Kozai, is gone. They tell me he is dead, but I reject these lies. Kozai faced down the Wolf of Saturn VI alone. Such a man does not just perish like a dog. You must think this strange, but I beg you, travel to the wreckage of Vesper Relay. There, we will search for the truth. Aspirant Zorba.
A shadowgraph is a way of imaging the unseen. It's a reflection of what is hidden from us, or rather, it is an occlusion, looking at the subtle shadows cast by heat, air currents, and shockwaves, using the absence of light to see what cannot be seen.
There. Folly's Shadowgraph. A window into a dark soul that my master only barely escaped from. Do you understand, Tenno? I am asking you to venture into its darkness.
Within the wreckage of a repurposed Orokin tower, an Orokin secret remains hidden in the shadow of a painting. An aspirant of the Arbiters of Hexus named Zorba reaches out to us for help finding his missing master. He asks us to return to Vesper Relay, and there we find a most peculiar sight, the painting of the Warframe Folly, whose power granted her the ability to take a thought, a memory, a story, and paint a world where it is real. Folly's namesake comes from the French phrase folie à deux, the term for a now defunct mental disorder which translates to madness of two. The idea being that madness, with the right conditions, may be shared with another, just as easily as one might share a piece of art. Who was Master Kozai? Where is he? And can he be rescued from the mad world within Folly's painting?
The painting is truth. Face it.
Better question, can we even save ourselves? Standing in front of Folly's painting, we are encouraged to jump inside. An allusion to the level selection of Mario 64 is claimed by Digital Extremes themselves.
Folly is here,
You cannot kill her.
but you can outsmart her.
Yes, I can.
But it is clear to me that there is influence from the painting motifs of Dark Souls and the recent Clair Obscur as well. Once within the world of the painting, we have a simple task. In order to escape, we must paint. But Folly is none too happy about us stealing from her. As we complete 3 paintings, each one representing a legend of the Arbiters of Hexus fables, Folly will pursue us. First by shadowgraphy, casting animated shadows of our past foes by means of shadow puppetry, then by chasing us herself with an intent to erase, then by creating facsimiles of herself around the relay and blocking hallways with her ink. While completing the paintings, if we are to collect the paint we need, we must search for her balloons while being hunted. This game mode is not about victory and destruction. It's about hiding, movement, and observation. It's about tension, a disempowered horror game. She has become the beast, and we, her prey. As we explore the painted world, a woman announces instructions through a PA system.
If you are not gentle with your implements, do not expect them to be gentle with you. If you don't fight me, then the paint won't fight you. Of all the thoughtless, beastly things you could have done.
Advice on how to paint, advice on how to feel, and punishments for being unruly or unresponsive to her treatment.
Such earnest brushwork. I can have you put back in your capsule like that. You wanted to provoke a reaction, and now you have. Good for you. You just keep on painting. I shall tell you what it all means. Let your fear disappear in the strokes of your brush. Watch it run down the canvas. Faster, faster! You should feel proud of yourself. I've been looking everywhere for you. Is this really what you see? Fascinating. Go on. It's just balloons. Nothing to be scared of. Subject is stabilized. Return to cryo.
Over time, it becomes clear that this is not merely instruction, but therapy, art therapy between a certain instructor and their student, tasked by the Orokin to use painting as a means to teach the children of the Zerman 10-0 to control their emotions and move past their trauma. Emphasis on moving past rather than on healing. Rather than focus on expression and processing the feelings, the therapy, if you can call it that, is geared towards getting results. The children are expected to be happy, and those who are uncooperative are placed back into cryosleep. The instructor, whoever she was, clearly failed in her assignment of curing the children of mental illness to the satisfaction of the Orokin, the apparatus of the state seeking to define for its children the correct kind of person they must become. As punishment, she was transformed into the Warframe Folly. I believe the instructor had good intentions, at least at first, to use art to cope, to feel, to express. While it may not be a cure, is an invaluable tool for connecting with others. When illness tells us to shut down, to become isolated and afraid, art values openness, vulnerability, and leaving the expectations of result in favor of the joie de créativité. Now, Folly is left alone, abandoned here in the wake of her failure. That is until she is visited by another instructor, Master Kozai, a reading instructor for the children who seek to become arbiters of Hexus. He went missing exploring Folly's painted world, but left his student 5 letters, a challenge, and a game, to provide Zorba, who struggled with reading, the motivation needed to pursue his literacy.
I must tell you a difficult truth. Arbiter Kozai left an important task undone. It was his duty to teach me the sacred script of Hexus, but he never did, despite my struggles. So you see, we must find him. How else am I to read the letters he sent? Tenno, this ink, it's forming letters by itself. I make words in my head, and it just flows. And next minute I'm looking at the sacred script of Hexus. Every time I think of the same word, it makes the same shapes. All I have to do is remember what it's showing me. Be wary, Tenno. With her ink, she will blind you to the truth like some squalid, stinking creature of the deep. I can read the first letter now. It's really short. Here goes. Work hard. Study far? No, study long. Good, Zorba. Happy Kozai.
As he gazes, paints, and writes with Folly's iridescent atramentum, their swirling movements and subtle colors help him to push past his disability. He teaches himself to read, and reads Master Kozai's letters. In the first letter, written in short and simple language, Kozai encourages Zorba to begin studying the writing system of the Hexus on his own, and includes, at the end, that such is his pride as a teacher.
Tenno, I'm sorry, but I'm going to need you to bring me a lot more ink. I went a little crazy thinking of different things, and the ink made words every time, but I don't remember them now. And the ink's all gone. I'm going to try copying what it shows me. That way, it might stay in my head. The other aspirants threw ink all over me when I could not learn my letters. I was certain Folly knew, and she was mocking me. 5 sealed letters. That's all Arbiter Kozai left me in the world. Why would he do that? When he knows I can't read. He promised to teach me the sacred script of Hexus, but he never did. And now he's gone. Letter number 2. Zorba. Kozai has work to do. Teach. I don't know this word. Teach. Blobby thing? Truth. Learn truth too. Much change. Big surprise. Huh. Okay.
In the second letter, Kozai explains why he is leaving. He has discovered Folly's whereabouts and has left to be her teacher, to teach her about the arbiters, but goes on to speak of what he is learning from Folly instead. Not a classroom, but an exchange among peers.
It's working, Tenno. I've got all these different words in my head now, and I can write them down anytime I like. Could you keep bringing me ink? I don't think Folly minds. I think she meant this to happen. Can there really be eternal truth in a joke? Third letter. Folly is not evil. Folly is a teller of truths. I taught her Hexus stories. You are learning and she is learning. She makes my stories into pictures. You must make her ink into words.
In the third letter, Kozai tells of his exchange, that Folly also has something to communicate but lacks the ability. She hides the message in her ink for Zorba to uncover.
I think you're beginning to understand.
Did you know you can write the same thing in totally different ways? Like, if you're writing to someone important, you're meant to put these little extra curls and lines on the word to show respect? I think I only need a little more ink, Tenno. I'm almost done. I have learned something of Folly's own truth. She was not always as you see her now. Once she was a painter of hidden truths, bringing secrets to light for healing's sake. But others sought to... crooked line, warp, twist, pervert her gifts. She was put in service to cruel masters.
In the fourth letter, Zorba translated Folly's words, that she, as a painter and a teacher, taught her students to express themselves as a form of healing, taught them to be honest and speak their perspectives, their truth, through their art. But this is a dangerous pursuit under the Orokin Empire. The Orokins' vain faith, their religion, was built around the idea that controlling appearances was controlling the truth. Truth was, therefore, whatever they dictated be done or believed. Any individual person's perspective, perhaps those who would see the Orokin Empire differently due to the harms and trauma suffered under its rulership, was thereby a subversive, dangerous person. The Orokin saw her works, her painting, and her therapy, and demanded that her talents be shifted from helping those in need to serving Orokin propaganda. She refused. She tried to work within the system at first, but the system refused to change, and she was punished for her disobedience. I understand this need to speak your perspective and beliefs despite resistance and anger. You may have noticed that in my videos on Warframe 1999, The Old Peace, and The Devil's Triad, political philosophy, actually addressing the themes of governance, war, and personhood under a state, was a significant portion of those videos. Now I could have made the choice to discuss those themes purely abstractly, as if we ourselves live in a void devoid of social impact, but I didn't. I chose to center my beliefs about those ideas and use the world we actually live in. I chose to provide examples of that which I find unethical about war, governance, and society. I always look for the empathetic reading of any part of Warframe's story, and at times empathy calls for righteous indignation, not the caricature of a stoic sage. This excited and overjoyed many, and it angered many others. I received a lot of comments with generic "keep politics out of games," as if my video existed specifically to influence a vote in an election that was not happening, or the oft-repeated phrasing of "stop shoving this down our throats" on this platform of YouTube, where all videos are free and optional. Our society has become so fragile as to think that hearing opinion is the same as having your freedom taken away. To be frank, I find it to be a stupid rhetoric to believe and speak. I hear opinions out in the world that I don't agree with all the time, and when that happens, I say that I don't agree, and I say why. It is easy to do this politely and respectfully in normal conversation, but apparently quite difficult to do so over the internet. What I do not do is demand people's silence for being different than me. The opposite, in fact. I demand that you speak your beliefs and opinions too, just like I did. Let us discuss the merit of what we say, not when and where we say it. These videos you are watching are my art. Art is my opportunity to speak things that I choose not to say in polite company. If this makes me less popular among the Warframe content creators, so be it. But I feel to do otherwise. To treat its themes as ignorable when that is the purpose of my channel is to be disrespectful to this game. That I refuse to do.
Tenno, it's done. I can read it all now. Even the fragments from the years before the ordering. Now I can finally read what Kozai wanted to tell me. Thank Folly for me, would you? We arbiters think our judgment is so perfect. We need a little more humility. The Sky Ogres? Wait. Fomorians. The Fomorians will be here soon. I will give these letters to our preceptor Cephalon. We shall not meet again, my student, my friend. I must keep Folly safe. If you are reading this, you will understand why. And with what reason we should revere Folly as a holy fool, one of the saints of truth. I am confident you will be a just and wise arbiter of hexes.
In the final letter, Kozai returns to speak his intentions and to reassure Zorba of his fate, his belief that Zorba will go on to be the next generation of arbiters. Kozai did, in fact, die in the attack on Vesper Relay, one teacher protecting another. He spent his last moments hiding Folly's painting, such that she would be safe when the relay was destroyed, and safe from capture by the Grenier. He called her, in the syntax of his language, a holy fool and a saint of truth. In the Shakespearean tradition of King Lear, the archetype of the fool is someone none listen to because they lack authority and station, yet, from their position as comedian, whom no one takes seriously, may use the blind spot to speak their beliefs, their perspectives, their rhetoric, and their truth freely, and speak it to those who are in those positions of power. Be aware of people playing the fool in your own lives. No one is ever wholly ignorant. It takes knowledge and perspective to tell a joke. There is little difference between a comedian and a philosopher.
To hold the pronouncements of Hexus in my hand. To read the words that were written down thousands of years ago. It is a gift. I hope these help our search for truth. The Tenno of old entrusted the first arbiters with their secrets to guard them during the long sleep. We have been comrades for lifetimes. The Orokin only saw your usefulness. We saw your humanity. The day Vesper Relay died, she must have been so scared. I mean no disrespect, Tenno, but I wish more of you had fought against Fei Heck that day. Kozai said the truth is like salt, bringing both pain and cleansing. I used to think that was why tears are salty. I wonder why we so often see monsters and terrors in the random noise of an ink blot. I suppose it has something to do with how we evolved. We are built to fear.
Our new Warframe Folly, not merely a painter, joins Mirage and Limbo in the performance of magic and clowning. Her design is drawn from the Italian theater style of commedia dell'arte, specifically the sad clown character archetype of Pierrot and Pierrette, typically dressed in monochromatic gowns, black pom-poms, and oversized collars, frills, and hats to exaggerate the clothing of nobility, hence the black pom-poms of ink on her helmet's hat, and even the inky tears running down her cheek on both helmets homages the teardrops typically worn in Pierrot's stage makeup. Each of her abilities are also references to illustrative techniques. Forced perspective is the method of using positioning to craft a variety of optical illusions, such as turning flat surfaces into appearing three-dimensional, making objects appear further or closer than they are in fact, or the creation of shapes that would be impossible in nature. Shadowgraph we already discussed, and a self-portrait is self-explanatory, though the ability crosses between the worlds of portraiture and sculpture. And finally, plein air, which is more of a cultural practice than a specific technique. To paint en plein means to paint outside rather than in the context of a studio. It encourages the painter to choose subjects that break from the norm. By being removed from the controlled environments of academia, to be influenced by the more chaotic, changing environments the painter finds themselves in situ. You know, over the last few years, I have heard excuse after another defending the art theft pixel-generating algorithms without intelligence. An argument I've heard quite often is that new technologies always challenge leading paradigms in art. That, for example, the camera challenged the purpose of painting and illustration when it took the throne of realism away from painters. And that simply isn't true historically. By the time photography was coming into its own in the early 19th century, painting had been around long enough for multiple art movements that devalued representation and realism in favor of different aesthetics, emotion, expression, and affectation in the audience. In the first half of the 18th century, the Baroque style was all about exaggeration and extravagance in contradiction to the subdued and austere styles of Protestant art. Anyone who would compare the late Cretan school of art and the Heptanese school and say that they are both aiming for realism is being silly. German Expressionism was already well underway in the early 19th century as photography was getting started, all of which is only speaking of European traditions, to say nothing of other cultures. And one such movement, the Italian style of chiaroscuro, or clair-obscur when it moved to French, was an illustration movement which used the juxtaposition of dark, heavily shadowed areas to emphasize the depth and attention of the areas of light. The space that is obscured highlights the spaces that are clear, clair, and obscure. The lighting of the Vesper relay is represented in this same style. Dark corners covered in ink draw the eye's attention to the places ink wells and canvases are placed. Inverting the dynamic of clair-obscure, the game's resource farm instead encourages us to look through the darkened corners for their secrets, bringing attention to the graffiti on the walls and the changes to various rooms of the syndicates. The focus on ink also serves a few other purposes. The Shadowgrapher plays fast and loose with conflating paint and ink. The ink represents an influence from the sumie art style of Japan, literally translating to English as ink art, whereas the graffiti that Folly has tagged on the walls and windows often takes the form of an animated Rorschach test. The Rorschach test, otherwise called ink blot tests, are abstract, symmetrical pictures of ink that have been pressed between two pages. The randomness and lack of intentional shape or pattern is the point of these illustrations. Pioneered by psychologist Herman Rorschach in 1921, the purpose of the image was not to convey meaning to its audience, but to receive meaning from the audience. In this case, a therapist who would listen to a patient project thoughts, feelings, and emotions onto the random set of 10 images. Then, to use those topics brought up as a guide to begin a session of the talk therapy we are all most familiar with. Though somewhat unintentional, the Rorschach test was an early form of art therapy, rather than from the action of creating art, but from the act of appreciating art, from the act of seeing and feeling yourself responding to the object. As we explore the painted relay, we see a wide variety of images. The cute finger paint depictions of Teshin, of Warframes like Grendel and Mesa, and of other Tenno children, of Orican executors. Perhaps even Grenier crawling out of a tube. Their hand and footprints messily wrap around every wall and floor, whimsically at play. Ink has replaced most everything in this space. The decorative fountains now flow black. Beyond the graffiti, the inkwells show us images of fear, anxiety, need, and sorrow. Hands reach out and take form. Faces appear in anguish, some of them wearing the circular nose of a clown. Beyond the window of the main hall, a single inky manta ray, or perhaps a Marilina, can be seen swimming about. The syndicate rooms each have been rendered starkly in contrast to the values they wish to communicate and the images they seek to present to the system. In New Loka, their water has run dry. In the Perrin sequence, their stock tickers are obscured by a splash of ink. At the Red Veil, the burning tree is consumed and their torture victim replaced by a screaming face. At the Steel Meridian, their guns are overflowing and jammed with ink. The pristine datascape of Cephalon Suda is now home only to inky balloons. And finally, the Arbiters of Hexus, their council of judges now replaced by a single pulsating helmet, critiquing their pursuit of truth through challenge and law as merely a mode of self-aggrandizement. Such is the fool's duty in society, to speak truth to power when others are wise enough to stay safe by being quiet. We should all strive to be as foolish as Folly. Thank you for watching, take care of each other, and stay true.